really interesting book. I think a lot of people are going to get some good information out of it. It's called Make Your Job a Calling, How the Psychology of Vocation Can Change Your Life at Work. We're joined today by Ryan Duffy from up at the University of Florida. He's a professor up there as well. And Ryan, thanks for joining us today. How are you?
Great. Thanks a lot for having me.
Yeah, good to have a chance to talk with you. I had an opportunity to read through the book, and it's one of those types of books, and we all have to do some kind of work, whether you get paid for it or not, and we all have to go through that struggle. I mean, you being at a university, you're seeing a lot of students that are trying to make up their mind what they want to do. Was that kind of the impetus for putting this together, or what was it?
Yeah, actually, I would say the impetus was more just seeing adults who are actually in the workforce trying to figure out how they can make their jobs more meaningful for them. I think that a lot of times when we think about people making career choices, we kind of think of it as, well, you have all these things that you want, and then you can just try to go after those jobs and find them. But I think for most people, you have to make some compromises for the jobs that you eventually take. And because of that, sometimes they're not perfect for you. And so it's trying to think about what are ways you can make your job a little bit closer to perfect if you can't really choose that perfect career.
Mm. Yeah, you've always kind of associate the term calling with maybe the ministry or becoming a priest or something like that. But obviously it has, anybody can have a calling to do a certain thing. You hear of stories, people maybe in show business, they knew when they were 5 years old they want to be in show business, or a doctor or something like that.
Yep.
For other people, it takes longer, doesn't it?
Yeah, and what we found in a lot of our research is that nowadays only about 20% of people associate calling as a religious idea. Most people associate it with kind of that idea of a career I'm meant to do, or like a career that's a perfect fit for me for what I'm good at. And we also have found, talking to a lot of people who have a calling, that it's not their one and only calling, that they've had different callings over time, that actually probably more of the rare idea is someone finding their calling at 18 and then living it out forever. I think probably for a lot of us, what we're called to do will be different 20 years from now.
And that can change throughout your lifetime. You may have a calling, like you said, as a child or a young adult, and then that can totally change, right? I mean, 20 years later, you could say, well, I think I should be doing this, and you say, well, I give up the job you have. So that can happen, right?
Absolutely, and I think that actually is the norm, I think, if you were going to think of you as an example, I would imagine that maybe 20 years ago or 10 years ago, the exact calling that you might have is different from what it is today. Now, maybe it's still to be a radio host, but it might be in a different way than you were doing 10 or 20 years ago.
Yeah. Different than 2 or 3 years ago with the way the industry is.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things we talk a lot about is, it's probably a really antiquated notion for you to just have this one calling and live it, because if you try to do that, the world is not going to allow you to. You have to be able to adapt work, because work is changing so much now,
With technology of 100 years ago, you could stay in, look at the whole newspaper industry. I mean, you could stay in a newspaper for years as a print operator or something like that. Now, all the technology is changing. That job is gone or going away. So you have to, like you said, you have to adapt, right?
And I think, it's a great analogy, because it's something that we talk a lot about in my profession as a professor, where I really think 20 years from now, there's going to be a lot less of me standing in front of 20 students teaching, and more of me teaching on the internet, probably, And so it's trying to, stay ahead of the curve and not get stuck in what you're currently doing.
Yeah, I went back to school a couple of years ago, got a second degree. One of your competitors, Ryan, here at USF. But I mean, the whole thing had changed from the first time I went to college. Or every class you had to go to. There was no such thing as using the internet to do your, assignments and that kind of thing. And I agree with you. I think it's all going to be on a laptop at home or whatever the conveyance is at that point. You won't need classrooms.
Yes. And I think for someone like me who has grown up in that way and been trained that that's what a professor does, I think if I try to get stuck where I'm at, then I'm going to end up in a place really miserable 20 years from now, where I'm feeling like I'm forced to be doing this different type of teaching that I want to. But if I'm willing to kind of go with the wave and change myself, I'm going to be happier long term.
I know you go into the book in detail, but maybe capsule comment or two. I mean, some people may say, well, I don't have a calling. How do I find out what I should be doing? I know you go into that in the book a little bit. Can you explain that?
Yeah, I think most of the people we talk about who are living out their calling, it's almost always in a career that is a really good match for their interests, skills, and abilities and personality. That most people view what they're doing as something that really, really fits well with what they're good at, what they like to do. The other big component is that they're always doing something in their job that's helping others in some way. So, no, not everyone's Mother Teresa, but in whatever job they're doing, they feel like they're making a difference. And what we found is that, you can have a job that's this perfect fit for you, but if it's nothing that's making a difference in people's lives, you're just not going to be as happy as when you're in the jobs where you're really making a difference.
Yeah, you talk a lot about maybe you have a job, you're in a situation, you may not love your job and you can't leave it, so do something in your free time that maybe you're calling, that's unpaid, just volunteer, right?
Yeah, and it's funny, when we started writing this book, obviously the title is Make Your Job a Calling, so it's really about your job, but one of the things that we found when we talked to a lot of people was that it's actually very normal for people to have a day job and then live out their calling outside of that job. And so we ended up writing a whole chapter on that idea. And I personally think that is something that is a really, really, really good idea for a lot of people. That, yes, there are ways in your job that you can adapt it to make it better, but sometimes you just can't do enough to make it what you want it to be. And so if that's the case, then, don't give up your calling. Just figure out how you can do it outside of your paid employment,
Yeah, I talk to so many people, and I do it myself. I do some technical writing as a regular job, too, but you do the broadcasting as well. So a lot of people have that. Maybe on the weekends they sell things at a flea market or donate their time. So it's more than 8 hours in a day where you have to work for pay. You have other time, right?
and what we found is that when you do that outside work calling, it actually energizes your ability to be happier in your job. So you go into the work, even if you don't like it that much, feeling energized from what you're doing outside of work.
Yeah, yes. Well, it's good topic. Everybody, obviously, as we said, has to find something that they're good at or they want to do. The name of the book is called Make Your Job a Calling, How the Psychology of Vocation Can Change Your Life at Work. And I know there used to be vocational tests you could take in high school or even college. I guess they still do those, don't they? Where you actually write out what you want to do?
Absolutely.
And that can help you as well. But Ryan, I give out a website you can get a hold of the book if they like, get a hold of you.
Yeah, makeyourjobacalling.com. It's got a lot of interactive tools on there as well, and obviously you can buy the book on there too, and it's at all the major bookstores as well, online and in bookstores.
Great. Appreciate you taking a few minutes today. I know school is in session up where you are, but good job on the book, and hopefully we can talk to you again.
Really appreciate your time.